Machine learning models have become really good at learning all. Wait, just give me 1 minute. Something's wrong. Yeah, okay, I'm good. So hi, I'm Sanghamitra, and today I'll be talking about fairness with feature exemptions. So machine learning models have become really good at learning all patterns present in the data. But blindly learning all patterns can often reinforce biases and stereotypes with respect to protected groups based on gender, race, etc. That can have serious undesirable consequences on the society. In this work, our goal is to systematically understand and quantify only those biases that are non-exempt and undesirable. So let's start with a concrete example. Let's say we have a prediction goal where we want to decide whether to show online ads for an editor's job or not. This decision is based on two features with equal predictive power. The first one is suppose an online writing score, that is how good of a writer you are. And the other feature is a score based on a candidate's interest in English versus non-English websites. That is, a higher score means more interest in English websites. Now, both these features can have correlation with a protected attribute Z, that is, whether one is a native English speaker or not. And this correlation can bias the final decision against candidates who are not native English speakers. But examining this more carefully, we realize that online writing score is something that is really critical for the editor's job. That is, without good writing score, you just cannot be an editor. So one may feel that the bias due to online writing scores may be justified. But on the other hand, interest in English websites is a feature that might have similar predictive power, but it is not that critical to the job. So its bias is unjustified. So two features can have equal predictive power, but equal predictive power does not mean that their biases are equally justified. So are some biases less justified than others? And if so, how do we deal with these less justified biases? To understand this, we look into some more examples. One example of critical feature is weightlifting ability in a firefighter's job, because they need to be able to lift victims out of a burning building. On the other hand, gender bias arising from the use of the word women's in a resume is something that is clearly not justified, because here bias is from a non-critical feature. So the perspective that we adopt in this work is that we can exempt the bias that arises due to the critical features, but not the bias due to the non-critical features. This idea of exemptions brings us to our goal, that is how to formally define and quantify non-exempt bias, that is the bias due to non-critical features. And these exemptions are in fact very much embedded in US laws under a provision called business necessity defense. So now we'll move on to our main contributions in this work. In this work, our main contribution is a quantification of non-exempt bias while exempting the bias due to critical features. To solve this problem, we adopt a rigorous axiomatic approach where we examine examples and thought experiments to first arrive at a set of desirable properties or axioms that a measure of non-exempt bias should satisfy. And our thought experiments actually expose limitations of some existing approaches of fairness, and also revealing that this is a nuanced problem because of the complex causal and statistical relationships existing among the different features. While our final measure is counterfactual, we also propose several observational relaxations that can be used as a regularizer during training, as we show here. And to arrive at these regularizers or measures, we will be using some tools from information theory. So let me start out with some limitations of existing measures of fairness, in particular the two well-known measures called statistical parity and equalized odds. So statistical parity can sometimes cause overfairing. That is, it can unnecessarily detect bias where it is not required to do so. So this is the definition of statistical parity, which says that a model is fair if and only if the output is independent of Z. But in the simplified version of this example, let's say the bias is only in the critical feature, that is the online writing score, whereas the general feature doesn't have any bias. And let's assume that the output is a sum of these two features. So statistical parity will say that this model is unfair because the output clearly depends on Z. But the bias here is only in the critical feature. So it is desirable that we have a definition of fairness that deems this example as fair. On the other hand, equalized odds can sometimes cause underfairing by missing out on undesirable label biases present in the data. So this is the definition of equalized odds, which essentially says that the output should be independent of Z, conditioned on the true label Y. But in this example over here, let's say the bias is only in the general feature, that is interest in English websites, and the critical feature doesn't have any bias. And let's assume that the historic labels or scores are a sum of these two features, and we have a model that is just exactly equal to the historic labels. So equalized odds will say that this model is fair because the true label Y, given the true label Y, the output becomes independent of Z. But again, if we examine carefully, here the bias is only in the general feature or non-critical feature, which is undesirable and non-exempt. So we would like a definition of fairness here that deems this example as unfair. So these issues lead us to another measure that resolves these limitations of both, that is conditional mutual information. So what this measure says is that a model is fair if the output Y hat is independent of Z, but conditioned on the critical feature XC. This measure can be used in some practical applications. We'll show one case study on an artificial data set first. And there are some other real data set case studies also in the full paper. So when we use no fairness at all, then we get a high accuracy as well as a high bias. When we use statistical parity or mutual information as a regularizer, we obtain this trade-off between accuracy and non-exempt bias. And finally, when we use this method with exemptions, we achieve this method achieves a better accuracy and non-exempt bias trade-off. That is a higher accuracy for similar values of non-exempt bias. So while this measure has some nice properties, this also has some limitations. That leads us to examine more nuanced examples. And there are some situations where this measure is in disagreement with counterfactual fairness, which is like the causal notion of fairness. So if a model is counterfactually fair, there is no question of exempt or non-exempt biases. But there are some nuanced examples where this metric can falsely detect non-exempt bias, even though there is counterfactual fairness. This limitation again leads us to examine other tools in information theory called partial information decomposition. And these tools have some nice properties, that is, they are in agreement with these causal notions of fairness. And using these tools, we finally arrive at a counterfactual measure that satisfies all of these desirable properties. So while this counterfactual measure is kind of complicated to look at, but the good thing is this measure has some observational relaxations, and these relaxations can
Mitra, so sorry to jump in. Just want to mention that the presentation time is over. Do you have anything that you want to conclude at the end?
I see. Yeah. So yeah, I think then this is the last slide actually. So with partial knowledge or assumption about the causal relationships, they can correctly quantify the non-exempt bias. Thank you.
Cool. Thanks a lot. Yeah, great. So any questions from the audience? You can raise your hands or you can just directly type your message or question in the chat box. Okay, so I have a quick question. So you mentioned that this one satisfies a couple of properties. Is there any other desirable properties that is not satisfied by this one and you think might be a good thing to have? Yeah.
So your question is, are there properties?
Like you have this list of questions that the current measure satisfies, right?
Yeah.
My question is there any other desirable properties that are not listed here? And it is good to have, but it's not, the current measure doesn't satisfy yet.
So I think this is a very interesting question. Yeah, so these properties are again derived from like simple toy examples. And again, there might be some toy examples that we may not have considered, but generally there's an impossibility result that observational measures cannot satisfy all of these together also.
Okay.
Only this counterfactual measure can satisfy all of them together. But the idea is that based on certain assumptions or relaxations, observational measures can be made to satisfy the properties.
Cool.
But I think this is a good question. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you very much.